Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be something new that I'm doing. It is my May reading wrap-up. I had to think about what month it is, because time isn't real. Today is going to be my May reading wrap-up. I decided to do this because, I hadn't read a book in about a year, and I don't want to hear the criticism. I don't want to hear it. Last year was certainly, it was something. We had that big panini, and reading just was not something that I was thinking about doing. So, but we're changing that, and I decided to hold myself accountable to read books. I would do book videos. BookTube? That's what it is. It's BookTube. I'm joining BookTube. Oh boy. Who saw this coming? Not me. So, today I have 5 books to talk about. The theme of this month, there is no theme. The theme is books that I had on my shelf that I hadn't read yet that I wanted to read before I bought new books. The books that I read, they were all over the place, I'm gonna be honest. I had 2 2-star books, 2 4-star books, and 1 5-star book. I thought about doing them in order of rating, but I just decided to do them in order of what order I read them in. So we're gonna kick it off with the first book that I read this month. This is Bad Girls with Perfect Faces by Lynn Weingarten. This is a young adult teen thriller novel, and I gave this book 2 stars. Which saddened me because I had high hopes for it. I haven't seen anyone talk about this book. I bought all these books like 2 years ago, so none of them are new. But I picked up this book because the title intrigued me when I was in the bookstore. And the back of the book, there's a blurb that describes it as Gone Girl for teens. And I really like Gone Girl. I also like thrillers in general. And so I saw that and I was like, Gone Girl for teens? Are we doing like The Murder? Or what? Whoever described it as that, I just have some questions about a lot of things. So in this book, we are following 2 characters. We are following Sasha and Xavier. And the book opens, and they are best friends, and Xavier is getting ready to get back with his cheating ex, Ivy, who Sasha does not like, because she cheated on her best friend. You might be thinking, oh, that's really sweet. We have a teen book with a platonic male-female relationship. Oh, that's so funny that you would think that, because that's not what it is, because, of course, Sasha is also in love with Xavier, because men and women cannot be friends. Sorry if you missed that memo. So that's really why she wants him and Ivy to be not together, is that so that she can get him for herself. So there's a lot of jealousy, and then something happens in the book, which I won't spoil anything, and suddenly Sasha and Xavier are thrown into a lot of hot water, and they have to kind of try to fix, well, they can't really fix what they've done. They have to try to deal with what they've done. So originally I gave this book 3 stars, because I will say this book was definitely not written for my reading level. And not to say that I don't read teen books or like YA books, because there's a decent number of, well, I think there's one other YA book on this list for this month, but I do like YA books. But this book just, the writing felt very juvenile, to the point where I was like, okay. Also, so these characters are teens, but some of the things they do in this book are like, I was thinking they were like early 20s, like college age, for a good bit, until one of the characters, I think, has like a 17th birthday. And I was like, but y'all are doing like drugs and drinking like every other chapter. Did I not have a normal teenage life? Like, I was just doing theater and doing my homework. Apparently I missed out on a lot according to this book, because these teens are, this is like Gossip Girl level, like, what? So I give this book 3 stars because the writing was juvenile, but the story intrigued me enough to want to keep reading and to not DNF it. And the twists were, I mean, there were a good number of twists, and they were all done, I think, pretty well for a teen thriller book. And then, so the reason that I took off another star, because you're probably wondering, why did you rate this book 2 stars if you said you just rated it 3 stars? Because there was a writing thing in the book that just... So this book is written, for the most part, in third person, with dual point of view between Sasha and Xavier, which I enjoyed, because you are basically getting the same story from 2 different perspectives, and they have a lot of differing opinions on things that happen in the book. Then there is this third point of view that comes into play about halfway through the book that's entirely in first person. And you don't figure out who that person is until later towards the end. Which on its own would have been so cool to have this like mysterious third narrator who just comes in and starts revealing a lot of shit about what's happening in the book. And you know, you're like, oh my god, like, who is this? Is this Sasha? Is this Xavier? Is this someone else? I think the concept was really cool. There was just something that happened with the writing in these chapters that just completely took me out of the book. And I will just show you a page from one of the chapters. I guess kind of spoilers. I don't think there's really anything big spoiling on this page, but if you don't want to see the middle of the book, then don't look. So this is the first person point of view chapter. Okay, do you see all the capital letters, the capital words in this chapter? That's how the whole chapter is. And there are multiple of these chapters in the book. And I understand completely that this might just be a personal thing that I have issues with, and that some people will be totally fine with that kind of writing. But my brain, when I read books, when I see capital letters, my brain says it's time to scream. And so my poor brain was screaming throughout this whole chapter. And I didn't like that. I wanted it to stop. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, these chapters took me out of the book. To the point where whenever one would come up, I'd be like, I really just want to skip it. But I know there's going to be something that is revealed in this chapter that is going to come up, and I can't skip it. So that's why I took off another rating point for this book, because it genuinely took me out of the book. So all in all, 2 stars. If you can get through that kind of writing, you might like it. It's average, I would say. Like, would I recommend buying it? I don't know, but if it's free somewhere, it's a quick read. Is it less than 200 pages? Less than 300 pages. So it's a very quick read. I read it in a day. Also because I wanted to just be done with it by the end. Okay. Moving on to the next book I read, which is one of my 4-star books, which I was so happy about because I was like, please don't tell me that all these books that I bought 2 years ago that I need to read are all awful, because I paid for them with my own money. So this is The Wolves of Winter by Tyrell Johnson. This is a debut novel. This is a post-apocalyptic novel set after a nuclear war. It's kind of a speculative fiction novel, in that it speculates what would have happened if the U.S.'s war on terror in the Middle East had gone nuclear. Spoiler alert, nothing good happens because of that. There's also a consequence of the war is there is a virus that, and I am not joking when I say this, originated in Asia in this book. This is, I think this is 2017, by the way, for publishing date, if you're curious. I read that and I was like, hello? So basically, 2018, so only 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So basically, Earth, people are dying and everyone is dead. That's the same thing. But the virus is less sustainable in the cold, so a lot of people have been going north to live, including our main character, Lynn, who has moved into the Yukon with her family. And they're self-sustainable. There's no electricity. There's no electronics. They're living off the grid. They're hunting. They're foraging for their own food. I give this book 4 stars. This was a very strong debut novel, I will say. I am a sucker for a good post-apocalyptic book. I don't know what it is. I just enjoy reading about what people think will happen at the end of the world. I loved Lynn as a character. She's incredibly strong. She is self-sufficient. She can hunt. She can fight. She's a survivor. She's kind. She takes in people. She cares about people. The writing was incredibly strong, much stronger than the last book that I read. Not the strongest that I read, which is why I only gave it 4 stars. I also kind of wished it was longer. Like, I really didn't want it to end. There's very little romance in this book. There's a person who is introduced as a potential love interest, but the whole, surviving thing kind of takes a front seat to love interests, which I really liked, because I feel like in real life, if you're in a situation, you would more be concerned with not getting killed or dying in the cold than you would be about, finding someone to date. This book does have a lot of violence in it, so careful about that. Both human on human and human on animal violence, although most of the human on animal violence is, hunting related, so survival. Actually, I think all of it might be, but don't quote me on that. Also, a big trigger warning for attempted sexual assault and rape. This happens twice in the book, towards Lynn, our main character. One of the times it happens is, literally the first chapter of the book. I will say that the person who does this gets what's coming to him, and Lynn is not blamed in any way for what happens or what almost happens, so that's good, but just a big warning that is something that happens very early on in the book, and then again later on. So yeah, this book was 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I liked the ending. There was a couple twists in it, as you'd expect from any novel, that I did enjoy and that I didn't really see coming. One other thing that I liked is that they don't come outright and say what's happened to the Earth and why it's this way now. You kind of get sprinkles of the past throughout the story, which I really liked because it kind of added to the mystery of it all, of how did they get there. The ending was really strong. It's an ending where if Tyrell Johnson wanted to write a sequel, he absolutely could. There is enough in the world that is still happening that he could explore. But the plot of this book is wrapped up completely, so if this is just a standalone, then it would also be very strong as that. So, Wolves of Winter, 4 stars, highly recommend. Also a quick read. Actually, I think it's exactly 300 pages. Nope, it's a little over 300 pages. So, again, very quick read. Would highly recommend. The next book that I read was the first book in a series. Exciting. And that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I still have the Barnes & Noble sticker on it because I haven't taken it off, because that's the kind of person that I am. This is the first book in a series. I actually started reading this book last year. I would say like May, I think. I don't remember. And then I stopped, not because I didn't actually really like this book, but, there was a panini, and I just was reading, no, it wasn't happening. So I picked it up. I skimmed the first few chapters that I'd already read because I remembered vaguely what had happened, and then I read the rest of the book, literally in a day. It's, oh boy, how long is it? 380, less than under 400 pages, so longer than the other two. I gave this book 4 stars. I loved this book. This book was what I needed in my life. I've been looking for a fantasy series that I can get into. I have a couple on my TBR that I want to start, but I had this one, so I read it first. I am a sucker for fantasy. I would say most of my TBR is fantasy. I didn't want it to be that way, but that's just kind of how it ended up. I love magic, books about magic. I did grow up in Harry Potter, so that has influenced my reading likes and dislikes a lot. So in this book, we are following a character named Mare Barrow. She lives in a world where people are classed based on their blood color, where red bloods are lower class. They have no powers. They are, they're servants, they're workers. They're just your typical lower class citizens. And silver bloods are high class citizens, and they have powers. Everyone has a power. A lot of the times it is generational, so families will all have the same powers. And so they're ruled by the silver bloods. And Mare is a red blood, until she finds out that she also has powers. Oh boy. That's not really a spoiler because it's literally on the back of the book. So, to hide her heritage, she is betrothed to be married to one of the princes. And there's a little bit of a love triangle, but kind of not really. There's spying, there's action, everything that I love in a book. There's also a huge plot twist at the end of the book, which I did not see coming at all. It came out of left field for me, which I really love about a plot twist, is when it just comes out and is like, poof, and knocks you out. This is the first book. I will absolutely be reading the rest of the series at some point. They're all on my TBR, so I'll get to them when I get to them. 4 stars, really good, highly recommend. The next book that I read is my other 2-star book. And that is Year One by Nora Roberts. I need a drink for this. This is water, by the way. It's literally 10 a.m. I'm not drinking. So this is also the first book in I think it's a trilogy or a series. This is another post-apocalyptic novel, but it's a fantasy novel. I picked it up because, actually just based on the cover and the title, because there is no summary on the back of the book. Maybe I wouldn't have picked it up if I had known that, what it was really gonna be, because this book was not good. And I had high hopes for it. So this book, we're following multiple perspectives again, which is something that I do enjoy in especially a big fantasy book, or is this big? I don't think this is considered big. But in a fantasy series, I do enjoy a multiple POV. So this book starts off at the end of the world. Again, there is a disease, but it's not Asian this time, so thank God. This one originates in Scotland, where a family falls ill, and through the power of transmission, the disease spreads. Wow. Haven't seen that before in real life. So this book started off really, really strong. In the opening chapters, which is when the family falls ill and kind of the initial spread of the disease, were so good. They were so creepy. There was just this impending sense of doom and death and despair in the writing. And I was like, oh, this book is going to be really good. And then it all kind of went downhill from there. The twist kind of in this book, it's not really a twist because it happens in the first 3 chapters, but there are fantasy creatures in this world that are awakened because of this disease. So there's witches and wizards and fairies and everything, which again would not have been awful, because I do like fantasy. It was just a lot. So I guess the central character is Lana, who is a witch, and she is married, or she's dating another magical person named Max, and they're kind of the central character. And they aren't terrible as characters. They're terrible as a couple. They're disgusting. Do I just hate romance? Yeah, honestly. Okay, so the first time that I thought this book might be going a little off the rails is literally on page 24. After Lana and Max have sex, there's a moment where Lana experiences this burst of energy and light inside of her, and she's like, oh my god, what is this? Spoiler alert, that was her getting pregnant. Yeah. Because they've got a magical baby, so apparently it has to... You just know instantly when you're magic that you're pregnant. There's no waiting around. So, that was the first time that I was like, is this really what this is gonna go a little weird, isn't it? But I kept reading because I was like, it sounds interesting. And the other characters that have point of views aren't as weird, so let's read for them. There's Arliss, who's a journalist, and honestly, if the book had been entirely from her point of view, I would have been so excited because she was great as a character. There are a couple of the characters. The one thing I will say is, as far as representation goes, it's not great. It's not even good. There are 2 characters that we meet later on. One is a half Asian, half black girl, I believe. The other one is a black boy. And the girl is described as Oriental, so that's fun. And the boy is described as very muscular and athletic. Great. Love that. There's also a scene between them later on where they're talking, and it's implied that the girl doesn't know how to drive because she's Asian. Yeah. So, didn't like that. Also, trigger warnings for violence that you would expect from a book about people at the end of the world, as well as rape. There's a lot of it. There's a group of people who basically just go around raping people. So that's great. So yeah, 2 stars. Will not be reading the rest of the series, even though I've heard the second one is a lot better, but I just can't be bothered because I literally don't care about this book anymore. The last book that I read is my 5-star book. And she's a big boy. I just called the book a boy and a girl in the same sentence. Gender is not real. She's thick. This is The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. Boy. So this is the 3rd and final book. Depression time is here. This is the 3rd and final book in Hilary's Wolf Hall trilogy, which is a trilogy set during the Tudor era in England, during the reign of Henry VIII, that follows the life of Thomas Cromwell, who was one of his advisors, and a very misunderstood man in history's eyes. So this book came out in like 2019, I think. I picked it up at that point as well. I read the first 2 books in 2015, so I've been waiting for this book for a very long time, and I just read it now. So that's how you know that last year was a lot for me, because I just read this book that I've been waiting for 5 years, literally this month. So I give this book 5 stars. I read this book both on audio and in the physical, because it is so long. I basically would listen to it while I worked each day, and then in the evening I'd get off work and I'd pick it up where I was in the physical. So the audio for this book is incredible. The narrator is an actor himself. I don't remember his name, so I apologize for that. But you can tell because he acts this book. Like, there is no just, like, reading the book. Like, he acts this book. To the point where I was like, please stop. I am trying not to cry. So, I don't even know what to start about this book. So, this book picks up right where the last one left off. So, Anne Boleyn has just been executed, and Henry is getting ready to marry his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour. This book takes us through the 3rd and 4th wives, so Jane Seymour and Anne of Cleves. I love Tudor history, so I know a lot about it. The prose in this book exceeds anything else that I've read this month and in recent years. Like, it's rich, it's descriptive, it's emotional, to the point where I'm like, is Hilary Mantel is she a time traveler? Was she alive at this period in time? Because her descriptives of events and people and emotions are like, it feels real. It feels really real. Obviously, trigger warnings for violence, as you'd expect from a book about Henry VIII. He did kill a lot of people. Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil the book because, I mean, can you spoil a history book? I don't really know, because you could literally Google, like, what happened, and that's this book. But if you have an interest in history, in English history, in the Tudor period, read this trilogy. Wolf Hall is the first book, and then Bring Up the Bodies, and then Mirror and the Light. Read this trilogy. It changed my life when I read it in 2015. it's a really strong book. I literally cannot put into words how good this book is. Just read it. The ending is incredibly sad, which if you know kind of the history of the time period, you will understand why it's sad. I listened to the ending on audio because I could not bring myself to actually open the book and finish it. And the narrator, there were tears. They were genuine tears at the end of this book, because the way Hilary Mantel writes the ending of his life is so brutal and so heartbreaking. I was like, it was a lot. It was a lot, but I keep saying this book is really good. This is a 5-star book, in my opinion. The whole series is a 5-star series. Yeah. Please read this series. That's all I'm gonna say. The characters are incredible. The writing is incredible. The history, the world, I mean, is world building. It's, you know, the world. The world building is incredible. Just absolutely loved this book and loved this series. 5 stars. I have nothing bad to say about it except that it ended. So that takes us to the end of my May reading wrap up. That was exciting. I think I did pretty good. These will get better as I do them, because this was kind of just random and rambly. Next video that I'll be doing is my June TBR, which I'll be recording literally right after this. Will it go up today, the same day that you're watching this? I don't know, probably not. But I'm going to record it today. So I'll be actually reading new books. Well, new to me, not new to everyone, because I've got a lot of reading catch up to do. So if you stayed for this long, thank you so much. Please subscribe if you want to see me talk about books again. Or not, that's fine. I don't really care. I mean, I do, but like, alright. Thanks everyone again for watching. Catch you later.